We're really excited because this program has relaunched for the first time in about 3 years. The last time the program ran was during the pandemic. So we're really excited to have some additional funding and to relaunch the program for the first time in a few years. And we're really happy to have you here joining us today. Um, so before I get started, I do want to share some housekeeping items. If you could please make sure you're muted throughout the conversation. We later will be opening up for a Q&A session later on in our presentation here. So that would be a great opportunity if you do have any questions to kind of hold off until we open up for Q&A. And then at that point, you can come off and unmute your microphone and we can have a discussion. Feel free to have your camera on. I'm actually in a presenter mode. I can only see one person on my screen, but feel free to be comfortable and have your camera on if you wish. I did mention that this session will be recorded and will be shared on our webpage following today. So anybody that is interested in watching this at a later time will be able to do so. And feel free to share this amongst your networks or anybody else you feel might be interested in learning more about the program at a later time. And yeah, so we're just really happy to have everybody here today. Again, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. And we're looking forward to raising some awareness about the program and the amazing opportunities that it offers for youth and for local community service organizations in our community. So let's get started. Just before we begin, I'll just do a very brief introduction of myself, and then I'll pass it over to my colleague, Haley, just so you know our names and just a bit about us. So my name's Tally. I'm with United Way Simcoe Muskoka, and I'm the manager of federal initiatives at our organization. And I'm here with my colleague, Haley.
Thanks, Tally. Hi, everyone. My name's Haley. I'm a federal programs associate, and I work under Tally to help run some of our government-funded programs like CSRF, Reaching Home, and now Youth United. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today.
Yeah, so any questions you have about the program, you'll connect with myself and Haley. Haley will be the lead on the program. So we will have Haley's contact information shared later on in the slide. But yeah, at any point, feel free to connect with Haley if you have any questions on behalf of the program following today's session. So in terms of our agenda, we will begin with a land acknowledgement. We're going to do an overview of the program. So that'll include opportunities, criteria, requirements on behalf of the 3 opportunities that are available. So there's our grant applicants, the Youth Council, and the community partner opportunities, which we'll talk to you about in more detail shortly. We'll also review how to apply, benefits for engaging in the program. We'll talk about some of the previously funded projects, and we'll also highlight important dates as well as resources. So I'll pass it over to you, Haley, to begin with the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Tally. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are meeting on Indigenous land. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet, and we thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this land. Chances are you've seen or heard a land acknowledgement at some point in the last few years, but you may not understand why land acknowledgements are so important. Land acknowledgements are about our connection to the land. Indigenous people are caretakers of the land. Historically, when communities would come together to a particular area, the visitors would acknowledge the keepers of the land to show respect. Today in Simcoe County, we acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. In Muskoka, we acknowledge that the district municipality of Muskoka sits on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Wata Mohawk. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and historic importance of Indigenous peoples must be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities.
Thanks, Haley.
Okay, so I'll start off by providing an overview of the program. Youth United empowers young people aged 15 to 30 to make a positive impact in their communities. This year, we're proud to be funded by Canada Service Corps with a total funding pool of $105,000. These funds will be used to provide micro grants of up to $5,000 supporting small-scale, innovative, youth-led community service projects. All projects must be completed and funds invested by March 31st, 2024, and they are set to kick off in the fall of 2023. This program will be administered in our region, so Simcoe, Muskoka, and the town of Blue Mountains. Youth United offers 3 opportunities, such as grant applicants, youth council members, and community partners. Starting with the first opportunity, youth have the chance to apply for a Youth United grant. Groups of imaginative youth collaborate to create innovative project proposals and can bring their ideas to life by applying for micro grants of up to $5,000 to execute community projects that make a difference. Projects must address one or more of the following priorities: poverty reduction and social inclusion, reconciliation, building an inclusive community, preserving the environment, strengthening youth resilience, focus on engaging Indigenous youth and youth in underserved populations, and new and other themes identified by youth. Next, I'll go through the eligibility criteria. Grant applicants must ensure the following. Projects are youth-led from start to finish. This includes the design, implementation, and evaluation of the project. Youth must clearly identify the project plan and objectives on presentation day. Projects must build and enhance skills for youth involved, clearly benefit the local community, be inclusive and accessible. Youth must pair with a community partner located in the community their project is taking place. And lastly, 50% of funded projects must support or engage Indigenous or vulnerable youth, which includes racialized youth, youth with disabilities, LGBTQ+, newcomers, official language minorities, rural and remote youth, and youth from low-income households. Continuing with the eligibility criteria, applications will be deemed ineligible in the following situations. Projects are for youth but not initiated or led by youth. Projects are not inclusive and accessible. Overnight camps, workshops, or activities. Fundraising projects for other organizations. Projects including alcohol or drugs. Projects that require membership fees in clubs. Projects that include fines and penalties. And lastly, projects that involve fundraising or making a profit. There are some reporting requirements associated with this opportunity. These include a participant survey as well as a final report. The participant survey collects individual participant information and will be conducted around the start of the project. The final report is also a survey and will be completed 30 days following completion of the project.
Thanks so much, Haley. So I'll talk to the second opportunity that's available for youth on behalf of the program. So this is also for youth ages 15 to 30 to participate on a youth council. So the youth council consists of youth that are interested in making important decisions regarding the projects that will receive funding and that will run within our communities. The Youth Council will review and assess applications on presentation day and will engage in an allocations meeting to make funding recommendations. They'll have an opportunity to ask questions about the project and make sure that they meet the criteria of the program. And just to elaborate on presentation day, it's an opportunity for youth that are applying for a grant, as well as our youth council, to come together and basically we'll be watching the youth grant applicants essentially provide a presentation on behalf of what their application is. So what their micro grant would be for, what their project is all about. And it's a really great opportunity for everybody to engage in person and learn more about the projects and what they're looking to target within our communities. So in terms of time commitment on behalf of the Youth Council volunteer opportunity, it's a minimum of about 6 hours. There is an orientation, which would take about 2 hours. That'll be occurring following the deadline for the Youth Council volunteers to apply. So that's the week of the 22nd. There's also the presentation day, which would be a minimum of about 2 hours. And then there's an allocations meeting the first week of December. And that's where the Youth Council will meet to talk about funding recommendations for the youth microgrants. The final opportunity to engage in the program is for community partners. So community partners are local community service organizations that volunteer to provide mentorship to the youth applicants, and they offer support and guidance on behalf of the projects as is required. Community partners do provide in-kind contributions, and they offer assistance with youth projects, including budgeting, management of the grant, social and community connections, guidance and advice, and sharing knowledge that would benefit the youth to help them deliver their project. It's important to emphasize that projects must be youth led. While community partners are engaged in offering support on behalf of the program, youth are intended to be the ones creating, driving, and delivering the project. And in terms of reporting requirements for community partners, we do ask that a quarterly report is submitted. It should take no longer than about 5 to 10 minutes, and it's basically collecting how many hours the community partner has spent working with the youth group. In addition to that, if interested, community partners can also share some testimonials on behalf of their experience working with the program. And I'll pass it over to Haley to talk about how to apply for the program.
Thanks, Tally. Moving on to how to apply, starting with grant applicants. There are 2 stages to the application process. Stage 1 collects contact information and general project details. Stage 2 of the application will require youth to deliver a short in-person presentation on presentation day, which will be reviewed and assessed by our youth council. Grant applicants will present their project proposal and indicate the goals, outcomes, amount of funding they wish to receive, and the project activities. The presentations must address each question indicated on the Stage 2 application form. Both of these forms are accessible on the Youth United portal under the Resources tab. For Youth Council applications, youth can apply by completing the Youth Council application form and by attaching a copy of their resume. This form is also available on our portal under the Youth Council and Resources tab. Moving on to the community partner application process, there are 2 stages to the application. Stage 1 collects contact information and general details about your organization. Stage 2 is to be completed once your organization has been paired with a youth group. You will use the template on the Youth United portal to provide us with a letter acknowledging your organization's commitment to in-kind support on behalf of the youth's project. Application should take no longer than about 5 to 10 minutes for Stage 1 and 10 minutes for Stage 2. All applications will be submitted through the Youth United portal. And now for the benefits of engaging in the program. For youth interested in applying for a micro grant, they have the opportunity to create an impactful project that addresses the needs of the community, build community engagement, raise awareness about important issues in their community, and develop leadership skills and meet like-minded youth. For youth interested in joining our youth council, they have the opportunity to network with other young leaders, gain valuable leadership skills such as decision-making and teamwork, and gain both workplace experience and volunteer hours. For organizations interested in volunteering as a community partner, this demonstrates commitment to youth empowerment and community development. Partnering with youth can lead to increased community engagement and support. This facilitates professional networking and develops partnerships and strengthens relationships.
Thanks so much, Haley. And now I'll speak to some of our previously funded projects. So in the past, one of the projects that ran was the Innisfil Festival of Colors. So youth at a local high school hosted a color run involving students from nearby elementary schools. This helped them ease their transition into high school and meet other youth that they would be soon going to school with. It was an opportunity to engage in a fun and healthy activity. And the color run was based on a Hindu celebration, the Festival of Colors, that honors the diversity of the community and its students. There was another program that ran in the past called Self-Care Sanctuary. A group of cosmetic students at a local high school partnered with a local women's shelter to provide a spa day for women and children. It included yoga, manicure and pedicure, and participants also received a care package that they could take home with them. The group enjoyed a healthy lunch and they talked about self-care activities that they could engage in their own spare time. And also Sassy Snacks. This was a program ran by students at a school in Midland. They used Youth United funds to purchase and prepare food for a student nutrition program at their school that was serving hungry youth healthy snacks. And you can learn more about some previously funded projects on our website as well as our portal, and we'll be sure to share the links in the chat, and you can also access those through our webpage. And so just to talk about and highlight some important dates coming up. So for our grant applicants, presentation day is scheduled to take place on November 29th. The location and time is still to be determined, but we will share some more information once that's been secured. There is a final report for grant applicants that's due 30 days following the end of the project. And then for our youth council, the application deadline is approaching. It's November 15th. Following that, the week afterwards, we will be hosting an orientation. The location and time is also to be determined, but we'll have more information soon. And then also the presentation day, which will be occurring on November 29th. There then will be an allocations meeting, which will occur on December 6th. So that's the week after presentation day. And then there's also the opportunity for Youth Council to engage in one of our board meetings. So the Community Impact and Engagement Standing Committee meeting will be taking place on December 19th. And that's a really great opportunity for the Youth Council to participate and engage in discussion with our board members. And lastly, for our community partners, the deadline to apply is November 29th. And the quarterly reports would be due 10 days following the end of each quarter. It is important to note that all projects have to invest their funds by March 31st of 2024. So that is another important date to be mindful of. And here is the links for our webpage as well as our portal. Our portal is very inclusive and it has a ton of information about the program from start to finish. And our webpage will also include a recording of this session following today's meeting. So now we're going to open it up for a Q&A. We covered a bit of information here, so we're wondering if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat or come off mute and ask any questions that you might have. Janessa?
Hi. So I work at a hospice, and I was hoping to set something up for, I guess, like youth in schools with grief and bereavement. Okay. So would the school be considered like my community organization?
That's a good question. They could be. It really would be it would be up to you and it'd be up to the school if they're interested in engaging. Mm-hmm. So you could approach them and say, hey, I'm, interested in doing this project. Would you be willing to support me on behalf of the project as a community partner? And if they have any questions, you can connect them with us and we can talk to them more about what that opportunity looks like or what their contributions may require. But yeah, absolutely. If your school is interested in engaging, then that would be a great partnership.
Okay.
Yeah. And if at any point, throughout your planning, if you want to just kind of brainstorm or bounce some ideas off of Haley and I, that's what we're here for. So feel free to connect with us. We can have a conversation. We can either meet you in person or we can meet you virtually and we can kind of talk about eligibility criteria and help kind of brainstorm with you if need be at all. That's a good question. Thank you. Any other questions? I will kind of go through some of the questions that we've gotten in the past or that we've heard in recent weeks. I think it might just be helpful to note. So, one of the questions that we've heard was, does the funding flow through the community partner or does it go directly to the youth group? So it can go either way. It's really up to the group themselves. In the past, we've had funds flow through the community partner. If that's what's most comfortable, that's absolutely fine. But it is an option that the funds be directly provided to the youth as well. We do ask for receipts at the end of the project. So in the final report, we do ask for invoices and basically a paper trail of any expenses associated with your micro grant so that we can see that the funds were spent as intended. So that's how we kind of ensure accountability there. Another question that we've heard was, what does a commitment look like for community partners in terms of time? I know there's been a bit of hesitancy in terms of engaging if it's a bit time consuming. So it really all depends on the nature of the project. So for example, I did speak to a project that ran in the past, Sassy Snacks. Every week, the youth were getting together and they were purchasing food and then they were preparing food. So this was an ongoing project. I think it ran for a matter of weeks. And so in terms of the time commitment for the community partner, which was a teacher at the school, they were quite engaged and they did spend quite a bit of time on the project. So I would say that probably consisted of about 20 hours overall. But there's other projects that occur within a day. So for example, the Innisfil Festival of Colors, there was some preliminary work that led up to the event itself. The event was a matter of hours. And so overall, the community partner was engaged for about 5 to 10 hours. So it really all depends on the nature of the project, how long the commitment is for both the youth involved as well as the community partner. And I did speak about the final reporting that we would ask the youth to submit receipts. So in addition to that, it's kind of like a survey style final report. There will be a link and we'll have an opportunity for the youth group to go through and complete questions. Typically what we see is that the youth group will select a team leader, and that team leader is our primary point of contact. Usually that would be the person that would receive the funding and would essentially be responsible for the final reporting. But that can be completed in conjunction with the other youth group members. And then the funds, of course, have to be invested by March 31st, 2024. So that's just another consideration. We've also heard from community partners that have asked if they are kind of tied to, or if they're only working with one youth group, but they can actually work with multiple. So it's really up to the time availability that they have. It's absolutely an opportunity that they work with more than one youth group, or maybe what could happen is, I'm just going to use this as an example. If if there was a school that was acting as a community partner, perhaps there's multiple teachers that are interested in supporting youth projects. So there could be like one community partner, which would be the school, but then there would be multiple individuals that could work with different projects. And then some other questions we've had are around the receipts. So it's just important to make sure that those are kept handy or on file somewhere. Taking photos of them is always a good practice, or storing them in a location all together is a really great practice as well. And the other thing is, when we look for recruitment of our community partners, we're really looking for anyone that's interested in engaging. We do encourage the youth group to seek their own community partner themselves. So to kind of select their own organization that they would prefer to work with. But if they're unable to do so, or if they require some support with that step, they can coordinate with Haley and myself. And we do keep track of interested community partners that would be available for those youth groups to pair with if they need some support in finding community partner. So that covers some of the frequently asked questions that we've had. I'm not sure if that sparks anything or any other thoughts or questions that anybody might have on behalf of the program.
If a student wants to apply for a grant, I guess that would mean that they cannot also apply to be a part of the youth council because is that
That's a good
because that'd be a
question.
conflict?
That's a really great question. It doesn't mean that they can't apply. They certainly could. What would happen is they would have to declare a conflict if they were reviewing, will come to the point of reviewing and assessing that application. There would be a conflict there. So we would ask them to step out and they would not engage in the review and assessment of the application that they
Of
would be part
theirs.
of. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Great question.
All right. And then as far as a community partner goes, I mean, finding a business or something to pair up with you, does that mean they can't get paid in any way? They have to
Yeah.
do it pro bono?
Yeah. So they do provide in-kind contributions. So
Okay.
that's part of the agreement, or part of, signing up as a community partner is that there's an awareness that they are doing this as a volunteer opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so if somebody was to apply for a certain amount of money and you said you take pictures of the receipts, just if they didn't use all the money, would they just give it back? Is that
Um,
or is that
yeah, we would encourage them to try and spend the money in some type of way.
on some
We
way?
can get
Okay.
pretty creative with what that looks like, whether it be, if all the youth are gathering together to plan for their project, maybe they buy a round of coffee or a snack so that when they're meeting they have lunch for the day or something like
Nourishment.
that.
Okay.
Those are some of the things we can discuss in terms of eligibility, but we really try and understand first and foremost, what is the project, what are they trying to target in the community, and how might we be able to encourage use of funds that really help to try and target the project that they're initiating.
And also, I will tell my daughter she can watch this presentation, but would she be able to contact Haley if, I mean, just to spitball or get ideas or,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
we love
absolutely.
that. And that's exactly
Okay.
what we're here for. We want to encourage engagement as much as possible. And so it's really great actually having these brainstorm discussions. If your daughter was interested in applying and maybe has some friends or some other youth that might be interested in applying as well. Usually what we do is we sit down and we say, okay, what matters to you? Like what kind of direction are you looking to go here? And how can we try and target that? What does that look like?
Right.
And we really try and kind of ask some like encouraging questions to kind of just get the brainstorm going of what the youth would like to see being done in the community. We want the youth to be the creators of this project, the ones that are creating the ideas. So we kind of just are there to support and prompt that discussion. But that's exactly what we're here for, and we'd love to meet with anybody that's interested in applying. Yeah, definitely have them contact us, and we can connect.
Okay, great. Yeah, because she's done fundraising in the past for the Humane Society, but as far as I don't know about writing, an application for a grant, like she might need some help or something with that.
Yeah, yeah. And, I guess
Uh,
another thing we would encourage is you can always go online and have a look at so we talked about when you apply, there's a stage 1 and stage 2 application for those
right?
interested in applying for a grant. We can share those with you ahead of time so you can see what some of the questions are that we'll be asking to be addressed. And that'll help kind of influence, okay, what do I have to be thinking about when I'm asking for a grant? Like, what aspects of my project do I have to kind of plan through and consider at the beginning stages? So those are resources that would be really helpful to see. So yeah, just have them connect with us and we can share that
Okay.
information and kind of do a brainstorm together.
When you have done these, the, given the grants in the past, how, like, what are the size of the groups, for example? Like, could it be a couple students up to several students? Like, what is the numbers?
It's a really good question. You have some really great questions, Deborah. So we've seen it before. We've had like 2 youth. I've never actually seen a youth apply on their own, but that's absolutely an option. But we've seen anywhere from 2 upwards to 8, or even more than that. I think the most we've ever seen was about 12. I think there was 6 directly involved in the application. But in the later stages, more youth ended up getting involved with, for example, the preparation of food and snacks, etc. But yeah, there's really no limit on the size. It's totally up to the youth group themselves and the purpose of their project, if it aligns well for them to have less or more people involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just seeing if I have any more questions.
Yeah, no, these are awesome. I love it.
So if you do find your own community partner, then do you have to get them to fill out an application by the 29th as well?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's ideal, right? That they submit their application before the presentation day.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have to go online and fill that out.
Okay. I think that's all I got.
Okay, well, and honestly, if anything else comes up, feel free to pop in later in the conversation. We're actually going to wrap things up shortly, so just feel free to ask or connect with myself and Haley, and we can answer any questions you have afterwards, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Any other questions before we move on? Was there a question in the chat there, Haley?
Yes. So Laura, I believe from Making Change, asked whether as a community partner, can we only be a partner with a particular project? So a community partner can actually volunteer and provide in-kind support for multiple projects.
I think that's completely up to the capacity of the community partner themselves, right? If they have the time and they're interested, the more the merrier, right? So that's completely up to you. I'll just give it another few moments here in case there's any other final questions that might trickle in. Awesome questions, though. This is really helpful.
Just out of curiosity, I know it says the grant can be up to $5,000, but in the past, what's the norm that
Yeah,
people
that's a good
actually
question.
request?
So in the past, we've actually we had a cap on the maximum amount being at $2,500. This is actually the most we've ever been able to support projects with. So we're able to support projects with up to $5,000. And it's really by nature of the project what they might need. We might see projects coming through only asking for $1,000 because that might only be what's required based on the nature of the project. But I would say on average, it was roughly about 1,500 to 2,500 for the projects. We've seen like honorariums covered. There was a group in a high school in Collingwood, and they actually had a public speaker come in. And so they had an honorarium for that speaker coming into their school and presenting and speaking in front of everybody. It really varies. We've seen, like lunch and learns held, so the cost of food, and then also perhaps an honorarium for, again, a speaker, supplies, things like that. So it really does vary based on nature of the project. I think too, we've seen youth that have purchased backpacks for people that are experiencing homelessness. So they have, like snacks in the bag, flashlight, rope, a thermal blanket, things like that. So and then the youth get together and they go and do a shopping day. and they purchase all the items for the backpack, and then they would partner. In the past, they partnered with a local shelter to help deliver those backpacks to local individuals experiencing homelessness. So I think it's kind of a really great opportunity to have a look at some of the previously funded projects. Those are on our website as well as our portal, and sometimes even just having a look at those will spark some ideas.
Mhm.
And we've met with, or I've met with youth in the past, youth groups or youth councils for particular cities, and they've noticed, okay, like what are some of the needs in our community, or what are we noticing? And I remember one of the discussions was around there being a lot of garbage on the beach, and so the youth wanted to come up with a day where they purchased a bunch of plastic bags and they went and picked up garbage, and they had a lunch, and um, spend time cleaning up their community. And so it's really unique what types of projects youth come up with, what they want to target, as long as they're meeting the criteria of the program, which is pretty inclusive, I would say, is what's most important. And then I would also just highlight that 50% of the youth that receive funding do have to represent Indigenous youth or youth from a vulnerable community. So that list was on one of our earlier slides. It includes newcomers, youth in rural and remote communities, youth that are living in low income or poverty. So just being mindful of that those youth groups that target those areas will be a priority for funding.
Another question would be, I know the maximum is the 5,000, but has anybody ever submitted more than one application asking for less? So say if you wanted to do two different things, has that ever been done?
No, we typically do try and limit the number of applications to one. Not to say that they can't submit more than one application, but usually when that happens, we'll see different youth involved. So it typically wouldn't be the same group of youth submitting multiple applications. It often would be maybe like one or two youth that are from the same group, but they are working with a different set of individuals to target a completely different project or theme.
Okay.
Yeah, really great questions. So yeah, so as I mentioned, if anything else comes up, if you're brainstorming, you think of anything, connect with Haley and I. And honestly, if you just want to talk to us further or have a brainstorming session, we'd love to meet with you and bounce some ideas around. So don't be shy and feel free to connect with us. That's exactly what we're here for. Really appreciate everybody participating with us today. Some really great questions were asked. Thank you so much for your engagement, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Like I mentioned, we will have the recording of this session on our website. It'll likely be up, if not tomorrow, by Friday. So feel free to access our website, and that will have a link of this recording for anybody that might have not been able to attend and might be interested in doing so. And we appreciate your time, and here's our contact information if you have any further questions. Thanks so much for joining, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.